We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today is Dale Allen-Rowse. Oh my goodness, has he done a great deal in life? And we're going to find out all about his wonderful roller coaster journey, but also how he discovered the world of shamanism and found his true purpose and calling on his new spiritual path. After experiencing get the tongue right, Sarah, great success in the world of ballet, Broadway, and business, Dale was diagnosed with generalized dystonia, which I don't know what it is. We're going to find out all about that, causing a life shift from chasing money and fame to reconnecting with source and inner voice of knowing. We call that the cosmic 2x4. During the months of the pandemic lockdown, Dale wrote a trilogy of fiction books loosely based on his life. While writing, Dale discovered the world of shamanism and found his true purpose and calling on his new spiritual path. Using his autistic, spiritual, and business experience and knowledge, Dale brings a unique set of life skills and business skills and coaching that focuses on intuition and spirituality and imagination and helps his clients shift their perspective from being a victim to seeing the trauma as a portal to healing. He has been a background dancer for Celine Dion. He's done many other things, but I always think a journey that has really lived and really diversified, and really explored, is really a life worth living. So well done. Welcome to the show, love.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. I love what you're doing and the fact that you're offering like this amazing trove of information on your website. I just love scrolling through and choosing through the topics and like it's just so much fun for me. So I'm just so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for contributing to it because I believe that podcasts are a wonderful gateway to knowledge, and it comes from people who have taken the journey. And we learn from other people's journeys. We're inspired by other people's journeys, and that invites us to want to take our own with a little knowledge on how and why and what to do. So thank you for coming on and sharing here today. So where do we start, my dear?
Where would you?
Ballet. Let's start at ballet because you had to start that young.
Yes, yes. So when I was quite young, I was overweight, and my family really wanted to help me lose weight, and it was kind of a big deal because I was being, really bullied at school and stuff like it. It
Mm,
was a problem. Right. So I wasn't really into sports at all. My family wasn't really a sports family. We were
mm,
a church family, right?
mm.
So, I mean, I'm sure there's some that cross both, but ours was.
Right.
And so I had to kind of find a way to become active. And my best friend in elementary school happened to be taking tap dancing classes at the local dance school. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds fun.
Hmm.
Let's do that. So at 10 years old, I started tap dancing away. And I just, never stopped,
Right.
And before you know it, I was, being picked up by a professional ballet school, and like the rest is history, as they say.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, the thing about tap dancing, there's an art and an expertise and a wonderful rhythm to it, but it's also a wonderful way of tapping your frustrations out, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, because it's so physical, right? And you can just really go to town.
Whereas ballet, of course, is so much more controlled
Yeah.
and defined and refined. So, I mean, kind of opposite ends of the scale there.
Absolutely, because the ballet world is so prescribed, like down to the finger, as far as like where your position of your body is supposed to be
Mm.
exactly, Whereas tap is more about the expression or the feeling that's coming from within, right? And you're really dialing into it in a bit more of a free form kind of manner. So, I mean, it really is opposite ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum. You're right. Yeah.
But I mean, I always think if you channel too much in one area and you're not diversified of experiencing other areas, there's a certain truth that you bring to something when you bring other experiences into it, right? Other expressions into it. It just, I feel that instead of just channeling one note, you're actually kind of bringing the orchestra to the stage.
Right. Absolutely. You have to have both. You have to, because like even as you advance in the training of anything, you have to have that crossover. If you don't have the technique, the ballet technique in your tap, it's
Yeah,
not going to work, right? If you don't have the freedom of tap expression
right.
in your ballet, it's not going to work. Yeah, I mean, because eventually when you get to a certain level, yeah, you kind of have to be able to do it all.
So where did the ballet take you? What performances did you do? And how do you end up with Celine?
Yeah, that was a journey for sure. I started training with the Go Ballet downtown Vancouver,
Oh, I know
and
that. They did a fashion show for me
yeah,
way back in the 80s.
yeah, that's when I was there. I was there in '86 during the Expo '86. I
Yes,
was
actually, it was 85, I think I did that.
there.
Yes, I used to
Yeah,
go ballet as my models.
there you go. So small world.
It is.
That's where I started. And then from there, I went to the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School, and I was there for 3 years. And of course, danced with the company and had a chance to apprentice and do all that good stuff. But then I was picked up by Les Grands Ballets Canadiens in Montreal, and I was there for a couple of years. And oh my gosh, I'm gonna like giving you my whole resume. It's too long. I danced with 7 different ballet companies all over the world. And then from there, I ended up assisting Anne Reinking one summer in Tampa, Florida for her Broadway theater project. Then she put me into Fosse, the Broadway show. And then from there, I went to Celine. That's how that whole thing happened. There you go. That's the shortened version.
Short version of it, yeah. I mean, the opportunity to go around the world doing something you love doing, right? Dancing and you're getting to go other parts of the world and meeting other people. I mean, that must be quite exciting.
Yes, but it's a very specific track, right? It doesn't really prepare you either for the world or for the life in an office. So,
Oh,
you go and do that for like a whole bunch of years, and then you find yourself middle-aged, walking into an office for the first time, and you're like, how am I supposed to do this?
yes. How do I bring the ballet and the tap and all the expertise to that? But I always believe that any experience that we have in life is transferable. It's a redirect, and you can take the discipline, the ethics, a certain amount of the knowledge, and reapply.
For sure. And it's there in that crazy, right? And
Mm,
that level of intensity that is just so extreme. That is ballet, right?
yes.
That I found that how far I could push myself without breaking,
Yeah.
like literally, And so when I started to, realize, okay, I don't want to jump up and down for a living anymore. I'm too old for this. And I walked into a real estate office, and that was the next like logical thing to me, because real estate wasn't going to be dependent on either my education,
Hmm.
right? 30-day course, you got a real estate license, right? And it
Hmm.
wasn't going to be dependent on other people's telling me how successful I could be, right? There is no ceiling, right,
Right.
to that
Yes.
success.
Is what you put
That's
in is what you're going to get out. Yes.
exactly. So that made sense to me. And so I walked into a real estate office, and again, like back in the day, like I didn't even know how to send a fax. Like they didn't teach me how to send a
Oh my God, you're dating yourself. Fax machines.
fax. But within the first 3 years, I was number 4 in the entire state out
Wow.
of all Remax sales agents, right?
It's the
And
stage charisma, you see, you're transferable.
well, and it's again, how far
Yeah.
can you push yourself without, having to break? And
Yes.
and the people that I went to real estate school with didn't have that in their background.
Right.
And they didn't understand that when I was moving forward into the business world, I was bringing not only that, but also my study of energy work, right,
Yes.
in my stagecraft to my office work. And
Right.
that was like they didn't even they were like, what is that? What planet is this guy from? Doesn't make any
You
sense.
haven't heard of it. But
And
you said a key word there, energy. I
right,
mean, like, no, no, when people talk about energy, they're either talking about the thing that they plug in or, energetic people, but they don't understand that we are all governed by energy. We all a frequency. We've all, got a certain hertz that we resonate on. The more you channel your energy productively, wisely, the more you can really manifest getting things done, because you're using your energy in the right way. We don't want hysterical energy. We don't want static energy. We want channeled energy that, rather like the volume, can go up and down according to what it's needed to do. And really harnessing that energy is an art in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I saw a real stark difference because once my career started to really take off in real estate, and the people that I went to school with were truly struggling to make a living, I had to sit myself down and go, okay, wait a minute. What is it that I'm doing that's different here, right? Because if there's something that's different, first of all, I want to be aware of it. But second of all, I want to leverage it. Like I want to
Yes,
teach it. I want to,
yes.
can it
Let's
and
share
sell
this.
it.
Now he's a medicine man.
All right. You
But that's
know?
the point, isn't it? Is that you've got something that's working. And it's, again, it's the cumulative. I mean, when, let's face it, when you are a performer, you can't stop in the middle of performance. I don't feel like, can we do it again? No, you are on stage. If there is a mistake, you have to make that mistake look like the art. All
Yeah,
right. And if there's a mistake with someone, they've got to be in tune with you to go along with it, or, cover it up in some way. So
right.
you're thinking constantly, literally on your feet. And it's, how do you transfer that into the business realm?
Exactly. And so you take exactly what you're talking about, right? And then you add on top another layer of my personal exploration of energy work consciously, right?
Mm,
That I found in my stagecraft. Like how far can I throw my energy? How big can I fill this auditorium with me,
yes.
right? And bringing that to the stage and really leveraging. I mean, it's kind of related, but not exactly. When you say that, being attractive, let's say attractive in business, being attractive has very little to do with what you look like,
Yes.
right? And it
All
was
right.
there, right at that intersection, that I started to leverage my business opportunities.
Yeah. No, you hit on a huge point there. It's I say this all the time. Excuse me, folks. I am suffering a bit from a cold right now. But um, people are constantly focusing on the exterior. Oh, they must be successful. They drive this car. They're wearing this Armani suit. They have this house. They're this and that. But that doesn't mean success, right? Okay, they're making money, but you have no idea if they're actually in debt making that money, or if they're in deficit within themselves. All right. And that actually is the biggest debt you'll ever have to pay. The thing about, as you're talking about, the essence of you that you were sharing, the exuberance of you, you knew how to be a performer, and you knew how to, when to turn it on, when to pull it back, just like a performer. You can't be at full 10 on every performance. It would also bore people. They like the transition. So you brought the transition of energy to the work, right? And the abundance of who you are and what you're doing is what deemed your success in people's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm also really looking at what I'm doing on all levels. Like, so as an example, like there's a lot of different ways to get business in real estate, right? One of the ways that we could do is go door knocking, just go door to door around the neighborhood, introduce yourself to the neighbors, let them know about a listing that you might have coming up. Just talk to people, right? Just going door to door. And a lot of people don't like doing that. I love doing it. I'm like, hi, I'm here. Deal with me.
The lights are on, action.
Here we go. It's gonna be fun. I can't guarantee it'll make sense, but it will be fun. It's just kind of like, well, anyway, it's just been my general attitude. It's like showing up at an audition. You don't
Yes.
know what's gonna happen. You just show up, right? And so that was kind of my first real big attempt at generating business for myself, was going door knocking. But I also understood what I was doing energetically. I understood that what I was doing was not knocking on doors. What I was doing was making a massive statement to the universe that I
Mhm.
am here and I am looking for business. And you know what? I didn't get a single deal from the doors, but my business tripled.
Mm. Referral?
Right? Oh, for sure. And the
Yes.
phone would just start ringing, and there would be all this other business
Yeah.
and noise and stuff that just was started bubbling up around me because I was doing that. And I looked at it very specifically and deliberately like that. I'm not going to go knocking on these doors looking for business at the doors. but I'm
Yes.
doing it as an exercise, right? A walking meditation, a statement to the universe that I am here. I am looking for business, and get engaged in casting myself, right, as the star of this
Right.
show that's
Yeah.
going on right now that everyone's going to want to be a part of. And I'm excited to tell you about it.
You painted your own canvas. It wasn't somebody else's picture, it was your picture, right?
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people just don't know how to do that in their lives. You know, they're trying to fit in. They're
Oh,
trying to live up to somebody else's image of what they should be or what is expected. And it's like, no, please, 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 blank your canvas, take the paintbrush and start painting blindly, because the essence of truly who you are will come out in that canvas, not whatever people. I promise you, you will disappoint everyone in life if you're trying to always live up to somebody else's expectation. Fulfill your own expectation of your own essence and don't deny yourself.
right. And it's again, like we were talking about even before, the show started, that the blessing is in not fitting in for me, in being so
Exactly.
extremely outside the box.
What box? What box?
It wasn't
There is
even
a box
enough.
big enough.
It's like, oh God, what do we do with this person? you know,
Yeah, there's no boxing me in, baby. No.
Exactly. But it's such a blessing to be liberated from that thought form, right? And to just be able
Yes.
to truly carve your path forward for yourself, including carving out and designing your own joy on your own
Yes.
say so, because that's what kind of day you want to have,
Yes.
right? And just moving forward for you, right?
I've just written my memoir. In one part of it, it is I wasn't educated because I was a very sickly child, so I missed a lot of school. And then I literally walked out of school, probably equivalent to you, maybe your eighth or seventh grade here. And I just learned from life. And it was always, well, let's hope she makes a good marriage. She's not smart, she's not academic, she's not this. And it was always about what I'm not. And then you go places, where's the piece of paper? And I thought, well, I don't have any of that. I'm just going to have to turn up a Sarah. And Sarah's just going to have to be enough. And when people don't expect much from you, they become very, very surprised
Yes.
when you actually deliver something and they go, well, maybe there is something here. And I think sometimes not having that expectation on you is actually a gift. Like, I used to look at it as, well, I'm not living up to expectation, I'm a failure. And then, no, hell, shit, I can paint my own canvas here, and it's either going to be pleasing to the eye or not. And that's okay.
As long as it's pleasing to you, I mean, you're the one you
Exactly.
have to answer to at the end of the day, and everyone else
Exactly.
can just adjust.
And you end up surprising people, right? Because they didn't expect that from you. Well,
And then you
sometimes
also
those expectations are a demon.
I found that it surprised me as well because
Yes,
sometimes we don't give the other enough credit to
exactly.
hang with our weirdness,
Right.
right? Like lead with that and see what they're
Yes.
comfortable with, and then you can resolve and negotiate. But don't negotiate with yourself first. Like don't negotiate against your own humanity and then
Right.
go, okay, well, I think that they're willing to accept me at this level, so that's what I'll show. No, that's
No.
not any way to show up in the world.
No. It's also too exasperating because, um, my ex was always, I have an image. And I've got to live up to that image. So don't tell people where we live. Don't tell people that. And how do you keep up with the lies?
Yeah.
And it's like, if they can't buy you um, as you, then you're selling the wrong product.
Well, you're just in the wrong place. Like,
Right.
why are you in front of that person?
Exactly. We're really in a world right now that we've just been oversaturated and oversold to. And really what we want is authenticity. We want people that are in the game they're in because they love it, because this is who they are. They want to share, they've got a passion about it, and they want you to benefit from it, right? That's what people want, and this is the shift that is happening as a consumer. We want people who are going to address us and our needs, and they're delighted to serve us because that's their passion. We just don't want to be sold the bill of goods anymore. We're just tired of the flash.
Right, right. People buy why you do it, not
Yes,
what you do. Right.
exactly.
So if you're leading
Yes.
with, like, again, just back to my real estate coaching business, like if you're leading with, come to my open house, well, that's what I do. Boring snooze, who cares? Right.
Yeah.
But if you're going like, oh my gosh, like I got this and this is what this is going to mean to my family, and we're planning this enormous like party for this open house to celebrate it, like, okay, now I'm interested. Like, you know what I mean? Like now there's a human touch to your, event, to your thing that you're trying to get people engaged with.
My sister used to be in real estate, and back in the day, the real estate, the open house would be all day. This was back in South Africa, and she used to have apple pies baking, and then
Yes.
people could even have a piece of pie in the kitchen. She was setting the ambience.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
setting the comfort that you could feel yourself in the kitchen. You could feel the essence of it. People can see this configuration is nice, that's configuration, like that's all very one thing. But how does it make them feel?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't buy houses, they buy future experiences they see themselves having,
Homes.
right?
Yes, yes.
Like,
They,
is
they,
this the perfect backdrop for that experience I see myself having in
yeah,
the future?
yeah,
Right?
exactly. And I think we've forgotten that in a lot of ways. And a lot of things that we've forgotten about in life is actually how just to show up being you and you're enough, but also the willing to pivot, they're willing to always learn.
Right.
I'm 68. I'm still delighted to learn something every day. I just did a show on water that I never knew anything about, and it's every time is a wonderful lesson. It keeps you vibrant, it keeps you young, it keeps you inquisitive,
Yeah.
right? So I think if you're always turning up as the student, you become a better teacher.
Well, that's why I teach. That's exactly why I teach.
Yeah.
That's why I write novels. That's why I'm
Yeah.
always in front of people's opinions, and
Yes.
stuff, because that's how I learn. In fact, when I first started becoming a real estate educator in 2011, that was the very first thing I really noted, because I was given that opportunity because of like my success. I wasn't necessarily seeking that out, but when they put me in the front of the class, and suddenly I had to know my stuff like inside and out on a whole different level, and then I was having all these questions fired at me that I had to answer. Like, suddenly, the teacher becomes the student, like in half
Yes.
a second, because you are really on the front lines of having to know stuff.
But there's knowing stuff and knowing stuff.
Mm.
I'm a huge knowingness advocate, and that is being present and centered and allowing the universe to speak to your heart in resonance, to lift your spirit into action, and for your mind to know what it needs to know when you need to know. We have an enormous amount of data up in here. How we use this knowledge, if we're only using it from the chin up, we're constantly going to be using the wrong knowledge at the wrong time. But when we put it with the soul, heart, and spirit's intellect, now we have the wisdom to know what knowledge is relevant in that time.
Right. So my books are channel. So what you're
Beautiful.
talking about
Mm.
is exactly where I have
Yes.
gone from real estate, which required me to start asking the hard questions about the manifesting mindset. Like, it's in the business coaching world that I found the whole manifesting mindset, right? And then from there, that kept asking me to ask more questions. And then from there, that led me to like dealing with a lot of my past trauma and stuff like, and then that led me to writing the books, which led me to shamanism.
Yes. And the shamanism and the channeling is within every one of us if we just choose to open up the channel.
Yes, and also, take the time to really educate yourself on how to use these tools,
Yes.
because they're available to all of us. We just
Yes.
have to open the channel. Like, it's
Yes.
not that hard.
No. But it requires us getting out of our intellect and also in just surrendering, allowing, right?
Mhm.
Where there is no dictating, I will open up this channel if you do this. No, it is I am centered, I'm at one, I am in trust, and I allow and open what I need to know.
Yeah. So in shamanism, we call it being the hollow bone. Like, you're
Mhm.
literally just the conduit to the being.
Yes.
There is no you. The entire like goal of the exercise is to empty yourself of yourself so that
Yes.
new stuff can come in. Because if you're always inhabiting you 100% of the time, and you never like vacate the space to allow for the new to enter, right? Like,
Yes.
you just are not ever picking up new information or learning a new vibe.
Or you're contaminating that new information with your own dictation,
There we go. Yep.
right? So by being kind of empty, and this is
Yeah.
what I was saying, when nobody expects anything from you. When I did channel things, it was a surprise. And it is basically what it's doing. The wisdom is coming through of what I am needing to share out with the world.
Mhm.
The knowledge in my head is then activated as to how to share it,
There we go.
right?
Yeah. Yes.
So it is a partnership between the spiritual world, the energetic universal world, oh God, whatever anybody wants to call it, it is a partnership between the trust of the divine information into your own heart, soul, and spirit, in a mind intellect, and how they merge together in an understanding of what to do.
You're exactly describing the method, which is called automatic writing, which is the spiritual practice that I use for channeling information from beyond me and how I write my books. Because people are like, how is it you can write a book in 10 days? Well, I'm not a part of the transaction.
No,
Like I
it's
am
just your
separate.
fingers typing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I mean, the closest I can describe is like using a Ouija board,
Mm-hmm.
right? I am just there to follow along with what is being told to me. And I can't tell you, like every day, my mind is blown by
Mm-hmm.
what's coming out of me, either because I don't know it and it's teaching it to me,
Yes.
or because like it will ask me to add something in chapter 3 that makes absolutely no sense, like none at all. I'm like, okay, I will just trust, right? Trust, right? Big
Yes.
stuff, trust, right? That is true. And then I get down to chapter 10 and it links up so perfectly. I'm like, oh, my mind is blown. I'm like, oh, how is that even possible? Like, it's just so, like, I mean, there's so many times I just stand up in my chair. I'm like, right now. Like, I feel like I'm going to get, caught on camera somewhere because it's the craziest adventure. Books are so wild, and people are like, how are like, first of all, they ask me, like, are you okay?
Yeah. But
And
it's the
the books
excitement
are
of
so
discovery,
wild.
isn't it? When I'm blogging or and I do my own show every week, and sometimes, okay, what am I going to talk about? There's something I want to talk about. I'll put the headline up there, or I have a word, and then the fingers, okay, what needs to come out? And either I type it or I just speak it. And then when I once it's done though, it's spent. Now, if I've written it, I can reread it. If I've spoken it, then obviously I can re-listen to it. But I've read things that I've written years ago and go, oh, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. Sorry, you wrote it. Because you were channeling at the moment.
Yeah, and that's what led me to shamanism. I actually started writing books on shamanism without ever taking a class or knowing anything about it. Now, mind you, full disclosure, I do have First Nations relatives
Mhm.
that I grew up with who lived on a reservation in British Columbia, and so I was very aware of what they were doing, which was stood in stark contrast to how I was being raised in a very Christian home, right?
Mm.
And so it's always fascinated me, but it was the books, right? The information coming to me from beyond the book, like
Yeah.
beyond me, that was like kept leading me down to this, spiritual practice. Like, you should check this out. This is what this is. And I'm like, is this what this is? And so after I wrote a bunch of books on it, I took it to someone who has their doctorate in shamanism, and they reviewed it and they were like, this is core shamanism 101. I'm like,
Right.
well, I don't know how I know this, but here it is.
But there again, back to the knowingness. You're knowing what you need to know when you need to know it. Don't argue with it. It just
And don't
is.
question it. Accept it as
Exactly.
true. If it's coming to you, it's coming to you for a
For a
reason.
reason.
And we have to learn to start to trust that channel of communication because there's so much there. Like, once you really start to dive into
Yeah.
the channel of information that's coming to you from beyond you, like that'll change your world.
I think one of the things that scares people about all of this, I don't want to give up control. What if somebody takes control over me? No, again, it is a partnership. They're coming through you. They're using the collaboration of you. And it's never to do any harm. It is always to enlighten if the intent of your heart and spirit is open and purity.
Yeah, again, it's the big T trust, right?
Yeah.
You have to really trust that you are in good care.
Yeah.
Then the first step to that is understanding that you have no control. Like,
Yes.
this illusion of
What
control
control?
is causing you to like not truly live. It's
Yes.
causing you to withhold of yourself, right? Because there's the illusion of control. Like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him what you're doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, it
Or
doesn't
lay out a
work that way.
plan.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, tell me about it. I'm sure you
Yeah.
got it all figured out. However,
Yes, exactly. That's, I think this is what I think people, because a lot of people, you've got to control yourself, you've got to control your thoughts. No, it's not about controlling your thoughts, it's understanding why your thoughts are there. I look at emotions that when anger or joy or something comes up, spend the emotion. The emotion is an indication of where you're at. Where we step into problems is when we become emotional over the emotion. And half the time we don't know what we're being emotional at. We've just become emotional. So,
Yes.
emotion is to be spent to understand why I'm angry, what's made me angry. Okay, I can let it go. It's got nothing to do with me, right? And we'll just spend it. You're mad at somebody cutting you off in traffic. Spend it for a moment, let it go. But carrying it and being revengeful or being vindictive or being carrying the anger forward is only going to eat up at you, and it will block all of your chi, all of your energy, and you will not have any clarity in that state because it crunches you.
Yes, absolutely, and it's really getting first of all out of the ego, right?
Yeah.
I'm on a YouTube channel. I spend a lot of time because I myself have in my lifetime been suicidal to the
Yeah,
point
me
where I'm
too.
like, okay, how do I fix this?
Yes.
How
Yes.
do I, Dale, fix me? Because
Yes.
nobody else is going to do it. And this
No,
was even brought home
nobody else
even
is interested. I know.
uh, and when I was diagnosed with dystonia, it was even more so,
What is
right?
dystonia, by the way?
So dystonia is the third largest neurological movement disorder in the same family as Parkinson's and MS.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I don't have it super bad, but it's in the world of tics. So tics is, usually fast and percussive, and there can be either motor tics, which is movement, or there can be vocal tics, which can be anything from mouth pops
Yeah.
to, swearing, whatever. Um, so anyways, that's what it is. It's a slow cramping of the muscles, whereas tics are fast. Dystonia is slow cramping. It's also known as stiff person syndrome. So it just becomes very hard to move. It's like you lose all the fluidity in your body and you become, slowly just more like cramped up.
Sounds a
So,
lot like fibromyalgia.
uh-huh, sure, yeah.
Because that is something that how I always best you feel like cardboard. You feel like a cutout cardboard, and it's everything stiffens right up, and it's really sometimes hard to kind of have that movement. So um, that's a lot caused by inflammation. Is the story the same?
Dystonia is, passed down generation to generation. But I know my dad had it. I don't really know much more about it other than it's a brain disease. It's not a body disease. So even
Right.
though it sense in the body, it's actually what's happening is a brain thing.
And probably the reason why you don't have it to such an extreme is because you are so open to channeling, and also you have made it a thing in your life to always seek joy, seek your own inner abundance. So
I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't affect me that much. I'm very blessed in that way, but it has been my greatest teacher. I
yes,
would not cancel it out from my life for anything.
right.
I mean, this has brought me to the edge of myself in a way that clearly was needed because I have gained so much. And I look at it as this
Uh,
amazing exploration of myself that I'm on in learning how to, be someone who once, was a professional ballet dancer and
uh,
like had this, life association with my body that now
yeah.
is very, very different. And it's learning grace through that and the blessings found in that. Like my relationship with my husband, like we're so close now
Mm,
because of this. Like, and I don't know that we would be that close as a couple if we didn't go through that. I don't know, but it's like there's so much upside to it. It's hard for
yes.
me not to focus there.
Well, I call it the cosmic 2x4 because the universe keeps giving us indication and taps on the shoulder and nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and we don't pay attention. And
Right,
then so off it comes, whackaroo, are you paying attention now? And it's like, I'm going to flatten you out. I'm going to give you something that you have to rebuild yourself from.
right,
And are you going to rebuild yourself in your true light?
right. Exactly. Exactly. And it's these things that most people would see as like either the horrific trauma and abuse in my past or dystonia or whatever would see as negatives, and I just don't see it that way. I just see like I'm on this little journey
Yes.
of me, and I'm having a great time, and like that's just part of the story, but it's not you know uh this horrible thing. And I think we often too much shy away from looking in there. Like,
Yeah.
what's in there? Like, get down in it. Like, spend some time. Like, I spend probably a couple hours a day just thinking, right?
Mm.
It's like, and that's where my books come from. And
Be
it's just like,
present, right?
exactly,
Mhm.
just chasing the thoughts of my mind and exploring ideas and concepts and seeing like who are you, like,
Yeah.
and clarifying to yourself your core values, who you are, what you believe in, like all of that stuff, and becoming master and commander of you.
And would you want to know you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you were somebody else, would you want to know you? Are you really representing yourself in a way that you would want someone to represent themselves to you? Right?
Right,
So
right.
it's I wasted 50 years of my life trying to be what everybody wanted me to be and just bent out into a complete pretzel. And I was a very spiritual being, having a huge difficulty being a human being
Yes.
because I can never satisfy any of the goddamn humans. It was
Yeah,
always, I want this from you. No, no, I want that from you. No, 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 you're not giving me this. And it's like one of your books.
it's
And
exactly the topic of my book.
well, until I said to hell with it, I am what I am. I'm
Right.
Sarah. You take
Yeah.
me or leave me. I'm not going to be offended if you don't like me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
Right. So when I did that, I gave myself so much more freedom and so much more permission just to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where it all starts, is in claiming that
Yeah.
identity for yourself. This is true for me. This is
Yes.
who I am.
Yes.
Claiming your truth and not wavering or like shape shifting into
Yes.
something else while you're in front of others because you
Right.
don't think that they can deal with it. Give others credit. They can deal with it. Show up. Show up not only fully for them, but show up fully for yourself. Like,
And if
where
they
are you?
can't, then they will leave the room. And if they're not ready for you,
And they
they
should feel
will
great.
find a way to exit. And that's okay. If your energy, I really do believe that I got given fibro because my energy was too exuberant. I was too out there. And I need to have that energy dampened so that it actually would be more communicative to the people I was meant to serve, you
That's
know?
so amazing. I
Yeah.
love the way that you say that. I feel like my dystonia is because I was too like electric. Like I have too
Yeah.
much electricity in my body or
The
something.
eel, electric eel.
Exactly. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to
It
hear you
calms you
describe it.
down, it
Yeah.
centers you, and you're projecting just the right amount of energy because, let's face it, that other higher energy only a few people can pick up on,
Uh,
right? And if we're here to serve, as many as we can, the energy needed to come down to a point, not down here, but to a point where people felt, invited to come up and reach you and feel that they could communicate with you at that level. If you're too high, you're just too far out there. And I was too far out there for people.
yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, everything happens. We say, it happened to me. Yes, it happened to you, but change the dialogue to it happened for you. How you discover your courage, your strength, your abilities, your purpose. When you're willing to go through that process of understanding what you could become because of it, then you're really truly stepping into meaningful purpose and allowing yourself to be.
That's why my short weekend coaching program is called The Problem is the Portal. Right? There's nothing but opportunity there. And you gotta just be in a safe place with,
Yes.
the right questions to kind of prompt yourself and lead yourself. Because guess what? In the depths of your trauma, in the depths of your personal hell, is where the secret to your success lies. Right?
Yes.
And it's just getting okay with that and allowing it to live within you in a way that's not radioactive. And how do you do that? You look at it, you visit it, you talk about it. You talk about it so much you get bored with it.
Never. But
Write books on it.
yeah, exactly. But you hit on a very important point there. It's it is when you're given these obstacles and challenges, people have misconstrued ideas. Well, if you're such a spiritual and high energetic person, why can't you just will your illness away?
Uh-huh.
Why can't your mind over matter just go away? But that's not the point. It was given to us for a reason. And that
Exactly.
reason is there. And we may not always agree with the reason. And I'm sure with your dysphobia and with my fibro, I've learned to partner with it. We're partners. Sometimes its voice is higher than mine, and I have to adhere, and it allows me my voice by supporting me, right?
Right.
And you learn to have that medium. And I think it's if it was not there anymore, where would my balance be? It is not a failure on my side that I still have it. right? It just is the paradigm of what I am dealing with that helps me actually understand so much more.
Yeah, and my body's doing a lot of things that I'm not necessarily participating in, like digestion. Like I don't
Yeah,
sit here and like actively participate in it. It just does it,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I kind of
Exactly.
look at dystonia the same way. Like it's got its own thing going on. That's fine. It can do it and whatever. I'm watching a movie. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And yes, occasionally it will go tick, 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 here you are. Pay attention to me. And you go, okay, what do you need? How can I pacify you? Okay, are you all right now? Okay, I'm going back to it.
no, I
And that's
really
it.
just kind of ignore it. I mean, it's so
Yeah,
funny. Like I almost like live my life like I don't have it. And
right.
it's why another reason that like I can't hang out in the chat rooms with people who have dystonia because
Yes.
they all relate as a sick person. I will
Yes.
never, ever,
Yes.
ever identify as a sick person. I'm like, okay, watch out. I'm coming through and I'm gonna like make something of myself and do some fun things and have an awesome day. Like that's my goal.
I remember going with somebody to a fibro talk, and there's this guy there. He had previously been drug addicted, and he was clean, and now he's helping with the fibro. And all of it was, oh, I know, it hurts, it's a struggle. And she said, Sarah, don't say anything. And eventually, at the end of it, and I said, it is what you choose it to be. And I said, yeah, you have hard times, and that's when you nurture yourself. But you look to what you still can do, and that's what you feed. And he
Right.
looked at me in horror because, of course, for him, his addiction was having everybody dependent on him with their pain, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, dystonia has been my greatest teacher, my greatest.
Hmm.
Right? Like, again, it has brought me to the edge of myself. I mean, on really bad days where I can't dress myself or, feed myself or, that level of care, and my husband has to take care of me, like that is where you find whether you have the stuff, whether you have grace, whether you are able to get okay with what quote unquote creator has in store for you, because I don't think, like, at least the way that I've lived my life, that that's all just happening by accident.
No,
For me, I have the trust that it is all happening for a very prescribed path for my spirit, right? And that
yes,
I'm here to experience this. I don't always know why, but the lessons are always there if you look
we
for
don't have to know why. And I think one of the greatest gifts that you've given yourself is your own vulnerability. Right? People are afraid of vulnerability. Oh, I don't want to be vulnerable. People can hurt me. No, but when you are vulnerable in trust of your spirit looking after you, you know that you're only going to attract the nurturers,
them.
right? Because just because you're vulnerable at that state, or just because you're living in a certain vulnerability, if you're living on the higher energy plane, on the higher frequency, the people that are out there to suck the life out of you and to zap your thing can't reach you. You're too high a level, but you could still be vulnerable in that plane, and you could do it safely.
Yeah, and a lot of that is also surrounding yourself with people who are good people. And
Yes.
the only way you're going to know whether they're good people or not is whether you present yourself, as truly authentic. One of my favorite sayings is that when we show up as truly authentic, we secretly give permission to others to do the same, right? And so that's what
Inspiration
I'm
begets
always,
invitation.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just allow like
You've
this
set the stage.
in the room, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, set the stage, like,
Yeah.
provide the opportunity in the room for everybody to get, like, super clear on who they are. I mean, there's a lot to that. And I hope that people, especially if they're really suffering, and struggling like with these things, I hope that they can find answers found in high energy vibration conversations like this,
Yes.
right? You have to dial it in order to open the channel. Like if you're not living there and visiting there regularly,
Yeah.
right? Your channel won't remain open because you'll turn on the news and it'll immediately like close up
Done.
because it's terrified, right? That's just the world we live in, so you
Your
have to
books, my
open it
shows,
up.
we're
Mhm.
asking people to dial up, to dial in.
Yes.
All right. The dialing up is the willingness to open the book and read it, to listen to the show of the inspiration. That helps you dial in.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And staying there is a practice, right? You have
Make
to
it a habit.
work exactly at engaging with it on a daily basis
Yes.
to continue the flow. But here's the good news. The more you work that you do along these lines, the more fun it gets. Right. And that's the thing I feel like they don't tell beginners. And like when you start the personal energy work, right? When
Uh-huh.
you start whatever practice it is, for me, it was core shamanism. And when I started doing that, like my life was far more difficult and I was far more confrontational and, aggressive like back then. But now, like my life is a lot more fun. I laugh all day long, right? And that's prescribed to me by me, right? And
Yes.
that happens on
That's your
my own,
medicine.
right? That's what I'm choosing to do.
Yeah, that's your medicine,
Yeah.
right? I don't think people know how to simply live in joy anymore because, again, they're so busy chasing something outside that they don't realize it's inside. And it's also the pleasure of, looking at the breeze rustling through the trees, a little doggy chasing a stick, a child, happily picking up a seashell, the ocean against the shore, the wind through your hair, all of those beautiful things that makes you connected, makes you feel, makes you understand the gift that we have been given with this planet and this gift of opportunity we've been given with our lives. When you live in that gratitude, that joy, that connection, then you really actually are opening you up to the whole meaning of life.
Yeah. It's once you stop thinking and
Mm.
start being.
I have to feel to think, actually. I can't think to feel.
I noticed a real shift. And for me, when I was really like in a dark, dark place, and I was really playing with that because I on my of myself was stuck in a very dense, dark, scary place.
Mhm.
And so I was experimenting with myself. I'm like, if I can do something, an activity, whatever it is, and every time I do it, it brings me joy, then I'm in control of that. So I went
Yeah.
out searching. And you know what I found it was? Turning up disco music as loud as I possibly could and driving in my truck through the beautiful woods, like just being a complete lunatic. And I'm like,
We are
stop,
the
like smiling
champions.
and having a great time. And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, and I'm having the best time. And I was like, see, that's in my control. I
Yes.
can throw myself into joy when I say so. That's a
Right.
me thing. I'm in control of that. Nobody else gets to be in control of that. That's a me thing. I'm going to be master and commander of me, my mood, my energy, my vibrations, right? And again, like core shamanism is energy work. A lot of people don't really even know
Yeah.
what that is,
No.
right? But it's chasing those paths of energy, right? And understanding what is in my control and what's not in my control. Like I want to know that, and then dealing with the truth found there.
Yeah. You know, uh, um, I'm sure you get it too, but clinical depression. And I've learned that on the headphones, the music, I'm not even listening to the words. It's the music, it resets me. And I just kind of seem to pick a number and the way that it flows, the rhythm that it is, it realigns me, it calms me, it sets me back in a groove and a move. And there's certain music like the blues, the jazzy blues for me, it's the elongation and the stretch of the music, that really gets you going. And it's that connection, I think a lot of people look to the fast movements in life, but the deliberate movements, that music can give you that expression. It is like, it brings you back to self. It's wonderful.
And see, so that's a reset button for you.
Yes.
Driving in my truck with disco music just blasting is like a reset button for me. Also, getting into water is a real reset of my energy. And it's again, it's
Yes, it's a conduit. So yeah.
exactly. And it's chasing these things to find out your own buttons, levers, and switches.
Would
And
you
find
say
out
the
where.
word chasing is right or just allowing these things?
Well, for sure. The chasing is in the discovery, but you're absolutely right. And that's what so much of my books are about because it is pure energy work and it's pointing out like trailheads of knowledge,
Yes.
right? And portals that are accessed through allowing, right?
Yeah.
Portals that you can open up within yourself to really truly change how you're vibing. Like that
Yeah.
is control, all of it.
Well, where does fear come from? It comes from people feeling they don't know anything at that moment, so therefore they're fearful of the unknown. When you actually surrender, I don't know, what do I need to know, and you open up and channel, then what you need to know when you need to know it is there, and there is no longer fear.
Yeah. So fear and trust can't coexist.
Mhm.
right? And so we have this constant sliding scale of ourselves of how much fear and how much trust are you living in on this particular day.
Mhm.
And it took me a long time to discover, again, that's a me thing. I can throw myself into 1,000% trust in the universe, and when I get there, there is no oxygen left in the room for fear or complaint. Those two
Right.
things completely disappear, and it's the
No
biggest
entry.
lie. It's so like
Yeah.
such a game changer when you get to that place, when you live in 1,000% trust in the universe that you are in good care and that you are being taken care of, and that even the stuff that you don't like that's being delivered to you, even that stuff is being delivered to you for your highest and best. Once
Yes.
you get to that place,
Yeah.
then there is freedom, right?
There's something wonderful as a traveler to the universe is you are out of body. You are amongst all that energy, but it is so supreme, so calm, so peaceful, so fluid. You are just part of the stars, the movement, not everything. And it is just, it is all. It is all. It is everything,
Yeah,
and yet it is also nothing, and it's just so utterly supreme. And
yeah.
the trick is to bring that into the body and live that through the human self.
Yes, exactly. And you know that you get there again when when thinking becomes boring, right?
Yeah.
You're no longer there, right? Thinking should be boring to us. Thinking is a step, a tool that we use in order to decipher, right? To filter through what's coming from the beyond, which is just static and noise, right? But we have to use that little computer in order to, choose from it that what we're going to actually use as a human being, right? So it's just navigating through that, right, and getting out of the thinking and down into the being. Once you start being and stop thinking, and all thinking and chatter slips away, and again there's no longer oxygen left in the room
Yeah.
for any complaint to inhabit in your mind, and there is no fear because you trust so much, right? When you get to that place and then you start to radiate and exchange with your
Mhm.
surroundings, like, because then that's when the whole communication thing opens
Mm.
up, like everything around you is suddenly in communication with you, like, oh wow. So that's why I actually started my YouTube channels to like really describe that process, because I kind of stumbled upon it, just fooling around and kind of doing like little exercises with myself and seeing what I was in control of. And like, am I able to actually consciously evolve like in real time on my YouTube channel using myself as an experiment?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, we want to get to that stage where it's like a deep breath and a beautiful exhale.
Yeah.
It is just that you don't need words. In fact, the way you're feeling, there aren't words for it. That people use euphoria or this or that. It is just beingness. It's at oneness. It's when you talk about the collective one, people think they have to give themselves up to be part of the one. No, it's being pure in who you are. It's that beautiful instinct to be a part of that collective orchestra in your own strength. That's what strengthens the one. It's not um, surrendering yourself. It is allowing yourself to be a part of that collective, because those energies, when they're put together, are a symphony in themselves.
How we heal the planet as we heal ourselves, right?
That is, if we want peace, we have to be the peace. We want love, we have to be the love. We want to heal, we have to be the healing. It's
Exactly.
us. You're
It's us.
pointing a finger at government, three pointing back at you. What are you doing, babe? What are you doing? Start with you and be the solution unto yourself and all those around you.
Yeah. Another way of thinking about that is restoring the vibration of the planet, right?
Which desperately needs it. It's so
But
out of sync.
within that asks us, what are we vibing with individually that makes up that collective?
Yeah.
And can you, as an individual, affect change of that vibration
Hmm.
from you, by being the causation of change in
Yeah.
that magnetic field?
I just did a show actually on this deuterium water, which weighs us down more, which I've done a number of water shows, but this was very interesting. But we actually did talk about the amount of energy that we consume in ourselves. And the amount of energy that the world is trying to provide to us is literally tearing the planet apart because we are over consuming the external energy and we're not being our own light bulb. We're not being our own energy. If we are our own energy, we don't need so much external energy.
Yeah, disconnect.
Yeah.
Everybody turn it off,
Yes.
disconnect. I don't like really engage. I mean, I do social media because I kind of have to
Yep.
sell books.
Yes.
um, it's not where I live. That's not where I hang out. You know what I mean? I don't watch the news at all.
Unless it's
Um,
funny, like Trevor Noah, which is leaving. If you can laugh at it. Actually, we do have a really nice news channel here. They'll bring you the news, but they are always, you know, chitter-chatting and buttering and laughing. And so it makes it palatable. I'm keeping up with what's going on in the world, but it's not bringing us down.
Well, I'm not saying don't be informed. You
Right.
absolutely must be
But
informed
just
for
don't
country, but
consume.
do it in a way that doesn't terrorize you or that
Yes.
you're not like, in it, too much. Like
Yeah.
just dip in to get the information and pull back out.
Yeah.
And make sure that you pull back out, with unattachment. Like make
Yeah.
sure that you're not attaching because our ego for care, right, sometimes can pull us down that rabbit hole with that energetically can be
Oh
a
boy, yeah.
place for us, right? So don't let your care like pull you down that rabbit hole, right? Like stay clean. You are in the world, but you are not of the world.
That was a hard one for me because as an empath, I pick things up.
Of course,
And
that's
it's so difficult to kind of like, block it off, block it off, block it off. And you want to fix everything and everyone, you want to be the answer to everything. And all you can do is I send out white light of love out there so that they may find the love and the answer within themselves. And if you want to support something, find something that you want to support and give your energy there. But if you're trying to fix everything, it's going to deplete you to such a point that you will break.
yeah. You have to put your own personal vibration in the world first and foremost. And if
Yeah,
you're vibrating with terror,
yeah,
or you're allowing your imagination to run roughshod over your personal health, right? That's not a good place to hang out,
no,
right? So you got to manage that.
yeah, because if you don't, it will manage you, right?
Very
This is the thing about fear and terror. I mean, this is let's face it, media, mainstream media, governments and all that. They love to keep you in fear state because now they feel they have control of you, right? They've got you where you want, not thinking for yourself, not finding the answers for yourself, not taking ownership of self. They've got you as a puppeteer, and they'll keep you scared that they're going to cut the strings and leave you all alone. And we've got to stop buying that narrative,
we
right?
do.
They only have the power because we give them the power.
Exactly. Right. So, it's staying informed without being terrorized,
Yeah.
right? Like find like places, like being from Canada. I didn't grow up in the States, right? And
Mhm.
so like being like the first thing when I moved to the US, like it was such a culture shock. I was so like, what is this? Because it was so like everybody was living in a war zone all the time. I'm
Yeah,
like why?
right.
And it's like there's so much talk of like guns and wars and
Which
like
still is.
yeah, and it was very bizarre to me having grown up in Canada where you turn on the news and they're talking about what happened to the local library,
And also being in Vancouver, surrounded by mountains and water,
Yeah,
in itself was just also harmonious, right? And calm. And we definitely see less violence here, although we're seeing a great deal more than we should. Um, but it's again and very much what you feed is what's going to grow. And so we have to be careful not only of the seeds that we plant, but also the words that we give the seeds. The intent, uh, the the vibration that we give them. Because if it grows to something we don't want, the only person we can blame is ourselves because we planted those seeds and we fed those seeds, and that's what you're getting. That's what you manifested.
yes. You talked earlier of that people have a hard time living their life in service to joy.
Yes.
And that is because they have not for themselves. Now, this is a life hack 101 that I do with all of my, people that I'm mentoring, right? The first thing we identify for them is their North Star. And their North Star is the thing to which all other decisions have to live in service to.
Ah.
So mine has always been joy, right?
Mm.
My North Star is joy. So everything I choose in life, all the decisions that I make have to live in service to, is that bringing me closer to joy,
Right.
right? And that's what that's kind of why I started my YouTube channel as well, is to kind of help people like get focused. And my main YouTube video when you first turn on the channel is why people get stuck. Funny enough, that's yours as well. Why people get stuck, right? Because I think we both, it's like, see people like acting counter to their own best interest and wondering why they can't move. You
Right.
know, like the example that I use on my YouTube channel is like when people are so lonely and they're like, why doesn't anybody care or check in on me? And then 5 minutes later, like the phone rings and they're like, why are people calling me? Like text me
Exactly.
for God's sakes, you know?
Funny enough, my show going on this week is next week is about that. Is it's based on kind of winter cocooning, and then a lot of people become very lonely at this time because they're not out there socializing, and it's like we got to make sure that we call on people, but also if you're alone, go and put yourself somewhere or do something where you're interactive with people. Don't just say I'm lonely, I can't do anything. Some people can't physically, but there is the phone, there is something else that you can do, that you can be interactive with. At some point we have to make the choice over our own lives of what we are willing to do to not feel that despondent anymore and not just live in the despondency. This show is called Ignite Your Heart and Soul, which the reason it's called that because I came here thousands of years ago to ignite hearts and souls of human beings, and that's always been my journey. And then people don't understand, what do you mean ignite heart and soul? Heart and soul for me go together. The soul can't speak through a closed heart. When the heart opens up, the soul then could channel through the heart in that resonance, in that love, and that truth, which ignites the spirit interaction and the mind knowing what it needs to know when it knows it. That is the frequency of my teachings. And for when you say your joy, the word I would be is for me is heart. When you come from the heart, when you do everything from the heart, if you do everything with heart intent to raise people's heart, nurture people's heart, it is, you choose what word really, that's my word. That's my word. Because that's where you're coming from,
Yes.
right? That's who you are. That's what you're resonating.
That's what's
Own
right.
it, be
Oh.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And get clear about that and
Yeah.
make that your North Star so that you are congruent with all of your decisions and all everything that you're saying, everything that you're writing, everything that you're posting is living in service to where you actually say you want to go.
Yes. Yes. It's yeah, I suppose I'm a conduit writer as well, because when I just write a blog or do anything, it just I may have a gist of something, but I just let it come out as it's meant to come out, right? And um, flow is very, very important to me. Energy has to be flowed. It doesn't like to be cut off. It doesn't like to be contained. It likes to be free. And I think when we live in fluidity, I mean, a ballet dancer isn't just leg here, leg up there. It is the flow to get up there. Everything. Tap dancing is a rhythm. Life is a rhythm. We need to get into flow. When we're in doubt, when we're in fear, when we're in conditioning or dictatorship, we are boxing ourselves and we can't find the fluidity of that movement. Living from the conduit of the soul to the heart and the spirit means you're tapping into the flow of that energy. Trust where it will take you. It will reveal to you wonders that you far beyond your imagination could have ever imagined.
Right. And so much of that is exactly where I have been in my own journey recently, which is to not judge when I'm off, not judge myself when I'm having a bad day, not judge myself when I'm not happy or feeling loving.
Leave that
And
persecution alone.
wow, yeah, allow
Yes.
that to be. And it's so funny when you stop resisting
Yeah.
that, the bad moods kind of go away. They dissipate on themselves. But as long as you're resisting it, it's persisting, and it's this
Yes.
funniest thing. Like as soon as you get, okay, well, I'm having a bad day, I'm off. And then you're like, oh, actually, I'm okay now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. We've got to own it. We're all going to have bad days, glad days. We're all going to have them. And again, it's like spend the emotion, right? If you're having a bad day physically, very often it's your body saying to you, you've overextended, right? You just need to have a nurturing day. Switch off. It's TV day, snuggle wuggle, and just nurture yourself. And that's okay. Not like, oh, well, I really should be doing this, but I really have got to go and do this. And this person wants this from me. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, just physically or emotionally, I cannot today.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And to be okay with that. That's really taken me so long to just stop judging myself and just like let myself be off. Like, anyways, that's taken me a long time, but I appreciate you, saying that. It's so true.
It is, and it's perfectly all right. Um, when you spend a lot of energy on other people, you have to spend a lot of energy in regrouping that energy for yourself. You can only give out what's in you. And if you are giving out and not replenishing, your generator needs to be replenished. And if it means saying no or stepping back and say, I can't, or I'm sorry, not at this time, let's reschedule, you're honoring yourself so that you could be the best of yourself, the people whom you serve.
Exactly. Exactly. Because that's a you thing.
Yeah.
You know, we don't get to, sidestep our personal responsibility and how we show up in the world.
Mm. Mm. Okay, let's look through all your books. So
Okay.
you showed us the cover of one, and that one is called.
Foreign to me. So I have two series of books. The first one is kind of autobiographical. It's my story set on a fictional character, if you will, and it's my trauma journal, and that's how I started it. And
Everyone needs one.
well, you know what? This has been such a great journey for me to unearth, like I was talking about, like all the really dense stuff that I've
Yeah,
lived through. It's a lot of like horrific stuff that I've lived through. And I was able to, like I said, unearth it and really look at it and find its gifts for me. Like I hadn't taken the time to really do that. And
yeah,
so writing this trilogy, the Journey of a Dark Shaman trilogy, book one is out now, book two will be out next week, and book three will be out before the end of the year of 2020. So that's the first series of books, and they're really kind of dark and dense and deal with kind of ownership of oneself, and then also dealing with the evolution of spirit and meeting yourself kind of where you are in
right.
order to, have a more successful life. So that's that
And you
series.
have to do that. You have to do that before you can move on. There is no, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. No, 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 no. You can't ignore it. You got to face it. You can't outrun yourself.
It will continue to bedevil you and
Yes,
affect your decision makings in a way that you do not want. You will
right.
not be fully clean
Yes,
until you have dealt with the ick of the past and
yes,
dealt with it in a way that's not dramatic or that needs a story, but just look at it and ask why it's there. Why did it show up for you in that way? Why
right.
is it there? What is there? What is learning there for you? Like really,
There's
I
always a
had to
reason
really
for
look
something.
at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you understand the reason, your own forgiveness can come in because we react and we do with the knowledge we have in that time. And now you know better, you know you wouldn't make that decision. You wouldn't invite that to happen, right? And so it's like the forgiveness of oneself. I think forgiveness and love of oneself can be some of the hardest things people can do for themselves, but it's forgiveness is the first step to loving oneself.
Yes, yes, for sure. Definitely. So that was my first series that I ever wrote was the trilogy. And then I've written another series, which is really fast paced and episodic, and it's called the Language in Light series. And book one, two, and three are available on Amazon right now. The first book is Handsome Devils, and it's about Nikolai Tesla. However,
Ah,
it's
I love him.
told it's told from the perspective of his secret lover, who's also part werewolf.
Ah, I love that. Leech. I love Tesla. I love it. You see, when
Well,
you're talking, before you go into the next book, when you're talking about conduit, I
yes.
mean, he was a person that opened up his channels, but he had the intellect to understand what he was being given. So yes. But love a werewolf. Woo,
So
yeah.
fascinating. So the book is part historical fiction because it actually follows the events of Nikolai Tesla's life. And it's the book series starts in 1886 when he leaves Austria to go work in America. And he leaves behind Melvin Vaughn, who's his secret part, werewolf lover, because I wanted there to be like Nikolai Tesla, who is to science what Melvin Vaughn is to magic and
Mm,
shamanism. And I wanted to really teach people because, you ask people, what is shamanism? They're like, I don't know. So
yeah.
I wanted to demonstrate like in a way that's kind of along the lines of Harry Potter because
Yeah.
he's teaching kids, the core beliefs and principles and spiritual practices of core shamanism. And so it's kind of along those lines as he's, because in 1886 is when conversion therapy was also actually first coined. And
Mm.
so he's running around trying to save these boys from, being lobotomized in conversion therapy. And so he ends up with all these strays and so he teaches them, core shamanism and what that is. So if you ever wanted to know what that is all about, that you can find out right there in the book series.
And of course, the other book is Where the Warrior Lives and an Army Awakens.
Correct, in the series, yes.
Right. I feel though that people actually do learn best in what I call factional stories. You're taking fact and you're fictionalizing it because through the fiction is the wonderment. And then the fact is oh, I wonder. I wonder if this is, basis of truth. I wonder how much of this could really happen. I don't know if you ever remember, because I'm dating myself, but there was a series called Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, right? And there was a book on it. My brother wrote a parody called Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe. And when I put the book down, I thought, I laughed here and there because of the ridiculousness, of the parody. But then I put it down. I thought, nay, this is way too factual. In its fantasy, it was too factual, And it's like, I think if we could step outside of, but where's the proof? But where's this? But where's that? And just trust that everything is given to us in a beautiful, illusional, not delusional way, then we'll actually understand that fantasy and dreams is part of our reality.
Exactly. Well, it's their communication conduits. You're
Yes.
receiving information through those conduits from beyond you if you're willing to listen to them. And there are real principles and very real tactics like these, whether it's shamanism or whatever else, that they have ways of tapping into that information, to that conduit of information. And you just have to open it up within yourself in order to receive it. My books talk a lot about that, of how you have to empty yourself, right, to allow new information in. That's how it happens in that vacuum.
Yeah. Did you ever read Philip Pullman's Northern Lights or anything called Golden Compass?
No.
Oh, you will love them. It's a
Oh,
trilogy.
uh,
Northern, Philip Pullman, um, Northern Lights. In fact, they've done a wonderful series called Dark Materials,
uh,
which is excellent. They've done a great version of it. But it's called the Golden Compass here. In England, it was called Northern Lights, and it's the beauty of it is it's about a child. But the beauty of it is, and this is what made me so envious, is their soul is on the outside. It is a creature that changes every moment as their children, and then when they hit puberty, it becomes the creature that represents their soul,
oh,
right?
wow.
But it means that that consciousness is constantly talking to them, and they can't be separated.
That's so shamanism because we have like
Exactly.
a spirit animal or a
Yes.
power animal
Yeah.
that we're in constant communication with. But a lot of people don't like because they've never actually taken classes in shaman. We actually have four entities that we stack within ourselves. So there's the one that everyone knows about, the power animal or
Yeah.
spirit animal. But there are three others that if you actually really study it as a spiritual practice that you learn about and you're engaged in communication with these things to the point where this is going to blow your mind because it blew my mind. So I had a Reiki expert come over, and it was somebody highly, highly, highly recommended from a massage therapist who I just truly adore, who is really dialed into like all of this. And so this Reiki expert shows up at my door, and she's like 22. Like, oh, you're not at all what I was expecting.
Right, exactly.
Come on in. You're highly recommended. And like seriously, like if I had judged the book by the cover,
Yes.
I would have missed out
Oh
on
God.
right.
Yes.
And so I brought her in and we started like doing the whole Reiki session. And she's like, reading and she's taking all these notes and she's writing in her book and she's, realigning and stuff and whatever else. And then afterwards, she's talking to me and she's like, so one of the four entities that we hold within us, within core shamanism, is your gatekeeper, right? And that's the one who regulates your body, right? Who has all the dials and switches on your body that's constantly, so that's the one you work with when you're trying to regulate yourself within you. Right. And so my gatekeeper like presents to me as a kind of half avian, half human, entity that I experience through that channel. Right. And I've never told that to anyone because like we develop these relationships that are very personal, right? Within ourselves in the same way that we, communicate with our power animal or spirit animal. So anyhow, she starts telling me about these conversations that she's having with this half bird, half human dude, right? During when they're like, the two of them are like aligning and she had no way, no way. I
Mm.
had never told that to anybody ever, 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 ever. But in shamanism, we don't really, put any value in time and space. Like those two things
Yeah,
are fungible. Like
yeah.
there's just
They fold on
whatever.
top of
Like
each other.
we're
Yeah,
in cosmic soup, right?
yeah.
Basically. And so, whether you're experiencing it on this plane or another plane, that doesn't have to be untrue because you're experiencing elsewhere rather than in the physical. Because the human body is really only aware of about what 1% of what's actually going on around us in
I'm
terms
always
of,
dimensional traveling. It's wonderful.
you know.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that blew my mind when she was telling me. She was like, this half bird, half man guy kept showing up. I'm like, shut up. I'm like, because like I'm very much in this to almost like be a skeptic, right?
Yeah,
To think critically about whether this stuff is true. Because until I see it, I'm not going to sign off on it or believe it
yeah,
at all, right? And so I'm in it in the depths of learning shamanism as a critic to be proven to myself whether this is true or not. And every time my mind gets blown about how these things that are happening on other planes keep showing up in this one.
right. I'm a child, was a very sickly child, so in bed a lot, and I played a lot with dead people. And I would go dimensional travel because I was left alone a lot, and I would live in other worlds.
Uh,
And I think this is what kind of disconnected me as a child to this one,
uh,
what made it hard for this one. And I lived my first part of my life extremely spiritual. Um, I had knowledge and wisdom that I would give to people. This, how do you know that? I don't know. Can you repeat it? No.
I'm the same way. It's
Why did you say that? Because you needed to know. And
yeah,
it would be way beyond my comprehension, way beyond my years, right? But it was just what needed to know. Or I'd be in a place lost, but I'd find somebody who needed information at that time. And
yeah.
that's the way my life always was. And then I have to say, actually, when I came to Canada, I met my ex-husband, and that changed my energy completely. So I battled for a long time. I lost myself, and I had to come back to it. But what you're talking about, the dimensional travel, I got rid of 152 lifetimes, and then found another 50 or more lifetimes that have been in there in the cellular structure. And it's only by getting rid of those that I got rid of the burden of the pain that I was carrying. And that it was this lifetime that had permission to come back to being the spirit that I meant to be. Because in the other 50 lifetimes, I was being burnt at the stake and persecuted and everything else, right? So it's when we're willing to go down these paths. And yes, it sounds far out there and far fetched. But to me, it's just my life. It's just who I am and where I've been and you know what I've done. And it's not separate from me at all. It's
Right. It's the through line of your soul, which has
mm,
popped up into this experience and back down, and popped up into this
yeah,
experience again and down. And that's the way you're experiencing yourself and growing and evolving and learning and doing all that stuff. And again, it's visiting those things and allowing what is true for you
yes.
to be true.
And
Right.
don't I always say I don't need to verify, validate, or justify.
You just
It
have to
just
know
is.
it.
Just have to know it.
I
And
mean,
it's for me to know and to share with whom needs to know it, and that's all.
right. Because there's learning there, and
Yeah.
go in as a skeptic and say, okay, what maybe this is not real, but I'm still going to learn from what
Yes.
I find there. Like start there, and keep learning from what you find there in those channels. And eventually it'll prove to you that it's actually true.
But by willing to speak about it, by willing to open up and say, I'm taking this journey, you're giving that permission to other people and going, but these things have been happening to me and I didn't know what they were. Or, maybe I should open up and just trust because I feel it knocking on my door, or I've got this feeling and I don't know how to experience it. Well, just open up and experience it. Again, get out of thought. For me, the knowledge is always felt to understand, not thought to understand.
Exactly. Exactly. The mind doesn't serve as valuable of a purpose as we have prescribed to it. It has a very specific use,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of other parts of your body that are far more intelligent.
And they have a higher intellect.
Yes.
This is a database, right? And they have a higher intellect. And I think if people could just, shamanism isn't woo-woo. I know mainstream media and TV likes to make things cultish if you're a spiritual person, or shamanism is something evil. But then how can we have movies like Harry Potter, like many other movies, or The Dark Materials, and all of these type of books and things, even Doctor Strange, a beautiful thing when she pushes him out of his
I
body
love
and
that.
says,
That
what
was
do you think
such a
you are,
great
just matter?
scene.
I physically clapped, right? And I mean, at last, they're actually addressing it. You're not
That took
just
my breath
matter.
away
I
when
know.
she did that and pushed
Ah,
his soul out of his body. It
yeah.
was just like I think the whole world like it was like whoa.
At last, yes. And it's opening up. Why are these movies so popular? Because it's giving permission to people to understand there is more out there. There's more within you. And that when you're willing to open up and learn, and yet you take somebody like Doctor Strange, so brilliant and narcissistic and egocentric, to become a person that was such a conduit
Right.
to his purpose, right? He had to have that cosmic 2x4 to find his purpose.
Isn't it? I find it endlessly encouraging to see these conversations that are happening in these really unique places that you don't necessarily like expect them to be. Like some of the judges' comments on some of the singing shows lately have been very evolved. I was like,
Yes, compared to
you all
beginning,
are paying attention.
I
I'm like,
know.
okay. And to hear like this level of, vibrational
Yes,
conversation happening in the mainstream and in our entertainment on singing shows, right, where they're helping people, evolve through their singing by way of, I was like, oh, like this is actually happening. And I'm really encouraged. And again, it kind of all started, with the whole Oprah movement, whatever, but
yeah,
it's blossomed into such a bigger thing from, The Secret and whatever else to the people really understanding and languaging in their
yes.
own lives, this kind of thing. I certainly see it in the business coaching world.
Oh, I do
And
too.
it's happening there in that very kind of, left brain kind of an environment, where it's all about the money and the score, right? And very kind of male dominated kind of energy. If I'm seeing it happen there, right? And I'm seeing it happen like in the singing shows, and like it is happening across the
I
board.
I can tell
I
you it is.
we are at a tipping point. I think the
Oh,
next 20 years are going to
yes,
be like just blow our mind as far as what we're going to see in terms of just human fairness, right?
yes.
And just allowing people to be as they are in the world without needing to subscribe to them a box or
Well, look
whatever.
what happened yesterday at the the climate thing. They are actually going to pay poor countries that have been contaminated by other industries, all right, to compensate for them. Would that have happened in the past?
Right.
But the beauty of it is I did a whole Let's Get Synced series, which was interviewing many Europeans and people from around the world on about the mental climate change, to have climate change. And it was so encouraging to see these people working with governments, working with industries, working with um, so many. I mean, there was a young man, he was 22. He's he's gone on to doing so many wonderful things, and it was all about waste control in his country. And how these people, but one of them is a company, Pure Necessity, a German guy who was on the other side of the wall for the first 11 years. But his company, it goes by the philosophy of people, planet for profit, not profit at the expense of people and planet. And by just rearranging those words, well, the more you invest in people, the more we invest in the resources, the more profit there is actually to have. But if you're only going after profit at the expense of people and planet, things run out. People run out, resources run out. And we're seeing such a divide right now with people. Give me, I don't know if you ever read Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson,
Uh-huh.
right? The two mice, two men around abundance of cheese, and each one of them has a different reaction. And I'm a true colors coach, those 4 key personality traits. And you've got the people who give me back my cheese. I want my way of life. I want to preserve it. I don't want to change. And they're pitchforking. They're angry and they're pitchforking. But you've got the other people saying, no, we're too far removed. Scurry and Skiffy and even Hem are out there looking for new cheese. You're left alone there. Resistance is futile if you're not willing to cross the bridge into this new paradigm. You are simply going to be left behind because the paradigm is already happening. It's happening on an exponential state, but it's undercurrent. It's not, they're the tornado, this is the undercurrent.
And I think, like, in even shows like this, we would be well served to talk about hope,
Yes.
even more now than ever. You
Yeah.
should have hope. You absolutely should have
You
hope.
are
Why?
the hope.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, if you look at us as a species and over evolution, like, we really only evolve in one direction, which is a
Right.
good direction, right? Don't ever lose sight of that. Yeah, things get bad and things, there might be a year here or there where things, but in general, like, big picture, I always have hope and I always have faith. And when you don't, look at the place where you're hanging out, because where you're hanging out is affecting your mindset, right? Get to a place where high vibration conversations are happening, where conversations that lift you up. That's a you thing. You're in control of that. And a lot of that is just the space to which you are, like, surrounding yourself in terms of a vibe, right?
Yes, yes.
Check
Be
that.
in the right vibration. It's really, when I was coaching, I'm from England, so it's inches rule, 12 inches, and it'd be the 6 to the 12th inch of people at various states of high positivity. And then you had the 4, 5 stepping into that positivity, but you had the 1, 2, 3 who are the piranhas that want to be negative. They live off that energy, and they go after the 4, 5s
Yeah.
because they can suck the energy out of them. So it is imperative when you're trying to leave negativity behind that you go put yourself in an arena of positivity for protection until you're strong enough that these piranhas can't get you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really is up to you. If you're living a depressed life, you're living a depressed life.
Yes.
Like, find other places to hang out. Go talk to some young people. If you
Yeah.
don't have hope, go talk to young people. They give me endless amounts of hope. They are dialed in. They are
Oh
not.
my God. Indigo
The younger
kids.
generation is, like, causing me, like, to celebrate, and the things that I see on my TV these days that I never, especially as a queer individual, never thought I would see,
Right.
in my lifetime. I just feel so lucky that, while, yeah, you and I, like, our generation may have done a lot of the heavy lifting in
Yeah.
order to move us from, the movement of the 60s and 70s into where we are today, right? There's a lot of heavy lifting that have had to happen between then and now, that we have been doing, that we have been actively engaged in, right?
We
And so we
shovel the
should,
trenches for them.
there we
Now they
go.
can, I mean,
Right.
plant it, but they've got to take over and prune.
Exactly. Let's go.
Yeah. And I think it's a very exciting time. Yes, it can be very depressing when you look at yet another war, but then I look at the Ukraine war and I look at the president they have, who is not shy of saying to the rest of the world,
Right.
help us, who on the front lines with his people, motivating them, always in hope. The
Yeah.
kind of leader he is,
Yeah.
it has been such an inspiration to other people. And
Yeah.
then you look at certain other leaders who are the ivory towers. It's all about me, myself, and I don't care who suffers for that. And it becomes a very stark thing. And it really is a question of who do you want to feed?
Right.
Who do you
Yeah.
want to feed? If you're abstaining from life, from any choices, and you just want somebody to make the choices for you, you're going to feed the wrong one. But if you want to take responsibility for your own choices in life, your own life in itself, your own happiness, then you're going to feed the other.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's all up to us, isn't it? It's all up to our choices.
It really is. And it's getting seated in self in such a way that you understand your levers and dials internally, and that you are affecting the world, not it affecting you.
Yeah. Yeah. And the response that you're going to get from what you feed, from what you exude out, you please don't think that you're going to please everybody. Please don't think that you're going to be the answer to everybody. You're only going to be a solution, a answer to people who are at the level of needing that answer at that time, right?
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
not be all to end all,
Mhm.
right? You are part of the buffet.
Exactly.
And really, when you stop and think about it, you stop and look at life in a different way. And again, back to the simplicity. I have a 20-month-old grandson and another grandchild on the way. And I watch my grandson at play. And the simplicity of his little imagination while he's doing things or playing with me, or I'll put on some jazz music and he'll dance with me. Or just, we have gobbledygook language. And he speaks back with me. It's so beautiful. It is so beautiful to be a part of his life. And in this way of growth and discovery, where you're actually discovering things about yourself as well. If we could stop looking for the big, grandiose things as meaningful in life and look at the beautiful, simple things that are right there, right in front of us, we truly actually understand the beauty of life.
I agree. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
How do people get your books? How do people get you for your coaching? What kind of coaching do you do?
Yeah, so I do professional real estate business coaching. That's kind of like my day job, if you will. I train real estate agents how to be better agents, right? So that's my day job. But if you want other kind of more like life coaching or my books, that can all be found on my website, DaleAllen-Rowse.com. That's D-A-L-E, Dale, Allen, A-L-L-E-N, Rowse, R-O-W-S-E.com.
And of course, your Facebook, Dale Allen-Rowse, Instagram the same, email Dale at Dale Allen-Rowse, and I don't have your YouTube here. I'll have to get that and put that up
Oh
here
yeah,
as
it's
well.
just
Oh yeah, I
youtube.com.
do. It's Dale
Yeah,
Allen-Rowse. It's up at the top.
youtube.com/Allen-Rowse. It's all
Right.
at
And
so
so, and you do, a 20-minute free coaching to find out if there's an alignment there.
yes, absolutely. If you want to, just kind of try it on and see if my style works for you and have a deeper discussion and what it is that you're trying to achieve, because I really help people everything from life, right, attainment and just security to business, right, is kind of see where you are in that and kind of develop a program for you.
I think also the example that you are is the sheer transition of your journey. Ultra religious, fat little boy started tap dancing into ballet, into performing around the world, backup dancer for Celine Dion, and then going into business using the same enthusiasm in business, succeeding in that, then to coaching of it, and then to getting your disease and then looking at it as a gift of redirecting you into discovering your own heart, soul, and spirit and conduit, then becoming an author. You've allowed yourself to take your journey. And so that's the beauty of it is that we are not one note. We are many notes. We can even be many instruments in our lives. We have so many chapters in our book of life. Don't get stuck on one chapter. Don't be afraid to write another one. You're always going to bring the essence of who you were in the last chapter into the new one. Look at it with enthusiasm and just explore. Please explore your life and where it can go. Open up, allow, become, and just step into your own beautiful essence.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show. It was really a great conversation. Have been an inspiration to me for a while now. So like I said, it's really thrilling to have the opportunity to actually talk to you.
Well, I'm delighted to have you here and come back anytime, anytime. And as I said, you're a wonderful example of never giving up, never giving in, and just always like, okay, what's next? That's the enthusiasm that you have to look at it like. Good day, bad day. What's next? I can't wait. Be exploratory. Thank you so much, Dale, for being here with us today. And folks, please, just if your life is down, you know what? Turn it upside down and look up. There's always a tomorrow, and that tomorrow is only going to be as good as you participate in it. And you can get through anything when you are wishing to do so. So until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.